Somewhere along the way, someone decided that spiritual stories were supposed to be about people who had already arrived. Not true. The stories that have survived 2,500 years of Buddhist tradition are about people in the middle of everything. Afraid, grieving, guilty, wanting what they couldn't hold, alone in ways that couldn't be explained to anyone. People exactly like the one listening right now. Buddhism has a name for this place. The human realm. The only place where the full range of what a life can carry, from fear to liberation, is available in a single lifetime. 25 of those lives are ahead of you. 25 different kinds of human struggle. 25 different doors. These are not stories about enlightened people. They are stories about what it means to be human. About what we find in ourselves when everything else has been taken. We begin with a man who walked toward what frightened him most. Wherever you are right now, this is for you. The most frightened man in this story was also the most courageous. He was terrified. He walked toward it anyway. This was before the Buddha became the Buddha. He was still a man with questions that had no answers yet, still carrying the ordinary human weight of not knowing what to do with his life. We recognize this. Most of us live inside this kind of searching for longer than we admit. He had tried everything that seemed reasonable, and he had arrived at something unreasonable. The idea that the way through fear might be through it. He began walking to the places that frightened him most. Charnel grounds where bodies were left after death. Empty forest shrines abandoned in the dark. Places where the air had a weight, where every sound arrived carrying more meaning than it deserved, where the mind lost its grip on the ordinary and slid into something older and less safe. He sat in those places. He made himself still, and he waited for what would arise. Before sitting down each night, he made himself a promise. Whatever posture he was in when fear arrived, standing, sitting, walking, he would hold that posture until the fear had passed. He would stay in it. He would not run. This sounds simple. It is one of the hardest things a human being can do. Our bodies have been running from fear since long before we had words for it. The instruction is written into us at a level deeper than thinking. When fear arrives, move. Get somewhere safer than this. To choose to stay is to go against something very old in us, and to say to the oldest part of ourselves, we can bear this. We are among the creatures who can feel fear and choose something different from running. We can stop. We can ask, what is this, actually? We can sit down in the middle of what frightens us and wait to see what it is. The fear came. Of course it came. A branch moved somewhere in the dark. The silence changed quality, the way it does when it stops being empty and starts feeling full of something unnamed. The mind did what minds always do in the dark. It took almost nothing and built something enormous from it. He felt it arrive in his chest first, then his arms, then the skin. The most ancient part of him rose up and said, "Go." He stayed. The fear grew. He stayed. It reached into every part of him that knew how to explain this away, how to find a reason to leave, how to make the whole thing smaller, and found him still sitting there, still breathing, not gone. And then, with nothing left to feed it, the fear peaked. And it passed. He was still in the same forest, the same darkness, the same sounds, the same man. But something had shifted inside him, something quiet and real, like a door that had been opened and could not be closed again. This is what the early Buddhist teachers understood from this story. Fear is not a wall. Fear is a wave. Like everything that arises in this life, grief, longing, anger, shame, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It always ends. Not joy, not pain, not fear. Nothing that arises in this life stays forever. But we can only discover this by staying long enough to watch it pass. When we run, we never see it end. We carry only the memory of it beginning, and so it seems to have no end, and so it becomes infinite. This is why the running makes fear large. The fear itself does not grow. Our certainty that it will never end does. To stay is to discover the truth in the body, not just the mind. It ends. It always ends. And the knowing of this changes something that cannot be unchanged. The early Buddhist tradition calls this insight. It cannot be given. It can only be lived. He went back to those places, night after night. And each time, the fear returned. And each time, he stayed. And each time, it passed. The forest that had terrified him became, through that repeated practice, something familiar. Familiar the way a difficult truth becomes familiar. We still feel it, but we are no longer afraid of feeling it. We all have our own charnel grounds. Maybe yours is not a forest at night. Maybe it is the quiet of your own home when the distraction runs out and something you have been avoiding is suddenly right there, waiting. A grief that has been following you for years. A fear of what your life might look like if the thing you are hoping for does not come. An aloneness so complete you cannot explain it to anyone else. We run from these things. We run well and we run often. And the running works for a while until it doesn't. Until we are too tired to keep going, and we stop, and we find that what we feared is still there, and smaller than the running made it seem. That discovery is what this story has been holding for 2,500 years. The next person had everything that was supposed to make life work. His story begins on the night it stopped. He had everything. That is the part worth pausing on. Not that he lost everything, but that he had it, all of it, and still woke up in the dark crying out. Yasa was the son of a wealthy merchant in the ancient city of Varanasi. His family had the kind of wealth that arranges itself around you like architecture. 3 houses, one for the cold season, one for the hot, one for the rains. Servants who anticipated what you needed before you named it. Musicians who kept sound between you and silence. Dancing girls whose entire purpose was to make sure you were never left alone with yourself. The early texts say Yasa was plunged in pleasure. This was not a metaphor. This was a life designed, from the very beginning, to keep everything underneath from getting loud enough to hear. We recognize this design. In every century, it wears different clothes. Keep the screen on, keep the schedule full, keep the next thing arriving before the last thing ends. Yasa had never once had to sit with the question of what he actually wanted, because the wanting had always been answered before it could form. The point is not pleasure. The point is that pleasure keeps something else quiet. One night, Yasa woke. His attendants had fallen asleep around him, scattered across the floor, instruments dropped, mouths open, bodies in disarray. What had looked like beauty had become, in the stillness of that particular hour, something else entirely. The ancient texts compare what he saw to a charnel ground, the place outside the city where bodies were left after death. The comparison is deliberate. A charnel ground is where impermanence becomes impossible to look away from. The body had known this for some time. The mind caught up that night. Yasa looked at what had been beautiful, and for the first time, saw what it actually was. He stood up, walked out of the house, and moved through the dark city calling out in Pali, Ati Dukkha, Ati Bahaya. Beyond suffering, beyond fear. He was not speaking about the dancing girls. He had fallen through the floor of something he could not yet name. The Buddha was awake at Isipatana, the deer park on the edge of the city. He heard footsteps in the dark. He heard the voice. And he called toward it, "Come, Yasa. Here there is neither misery nor fear. Sit down. I will teach you." There is something about being called by your own name in the dark when you did not know anyone was listening. Yasa sat. He listened. The Buddha taught him slowly, first about generosity and the warmth it opens in us, then about virtue, then about the way pleasure arises and passes and what it leaves behind when it goes. When he could see that Yasa's mind had softened, he taught the 4 noble truths. Dukkha, the suffering woven into impermanent things, the arising of that suffering in craving, its ending, the path that makes the ending possible. Yasa listened, and something settled in him. The texts say he attained stream entry on the spot, the first opening of what the early teachers called the path of awakening. At dawn, his father came searching for him. He found the deer park, found the Buddha, sat down and listened. He also attained stream entry. Then Yasa's mother came, and his former wife. Then his 4 friends, Vimala, Subahu, Punaji, Gavampati, one after another, until all of them had sat, and all of them had changed. One night, one man walking out into the dark. An entire world of people pulled into the light behind him. We know this too. We may not be the son of a merchant in ancient Varanasi, surrounded by musicians and dancing girls. But we know what it is to have arranged the life that was supposed to work, to stand in the middle of all of it one night and feel it offering nothing. That moment of hollowness, the early Buddhist teachers tell us, is the beginning of the real search. It is the moment the questions stop being comfortable and start being honest. What Yasa saw in that room was dukkha, the suffering that hides inside everything that cannot last. Pleasure is real. It is also temporary. And in its passing, it leaves a question behind that it was never designed to answer. That question only gets loud when we stop filling the silence. When we go quiet, something can hear us, and it calls us by name. Yasa stopped in the dark, and something came to find him. The next person walked into the dark on purpose. He asked the Buddha for the most difficult assignment available. That is not how most of us make requests. Most of us ask for the easier path, the calmer room, the people who are less likely to make things hard. We arrange our lives, quietly and over time, around the hope of not encountering what is worst in other people. Punna had studied with the Buddha for some time. He understood the teachings well enough to know what they actually asked of him. He had sat long enough with his own mind to understand something about how suffering arises and how it passes and what it feels like when it no longer has as much to grip. And when the time came to choose where he wanted to go and share what he had learned, he named a place called Sunaparanta. Sunaparanta was known throughout the region, not favorably. The people there had a reputation for being rough, quick to anger, dangerous to those they did not trust. Travelers passed through quickly. Teachers did not go. The Buddha listened to the request. Then he asked a question. Punna, the people of Sunaparanta are fierce. They are rough. If they insult you, speak badly of you, abuse you with words, what will you do? Punya said, I will be grateful. At least they did not throw clods of earth at me. And if they throw clods of earth, then I will be grateful they did not use sticks. And if they use sticks, then I will be grateful they did not use weapons. And if they use weapons, then I will be grateful they did not kill me. The Buddha paused. He asked one more question. And if they kill you, Punna? Punno did not hesitate. Then I will be grateful. There are people in this world who are so overcome by shame or despair that they take their own lives to escape the burden of the body. The people of Sunaparanta would have freed me from that burden without any effort on my part. I will be grateful. The exchange is in the Pali texts exactly as it is. No commentary is added. No softening. The Buddha heard Punno's final answer and said, "Well done. Having gained this patience, you may indeed go to Sunaparanta. Go." Punna left. He walked to that frontier province with no guarantee of how he would be received. He did not arrive to welcome. The texts do not tell us what the first encounters looked like, or how long it took for something to shift. What they record is that he taught through one rain season, the 4 months of the monsoon, when traveling teachers stayed in one place. By the end of it, 500 people had taken refuge in the teachings, and the first monastery buildings had been raised in the province. One person, one season, 500 doors. We do not know what those months looked like in practice. Whether hostility arrived and, in meeting him, softened before it could fully form. Whether something in the way he sat with people whose lives had made them sharp and guarded created a kind of safety that had not been available there before. We do not know. The texts preserve only the result. We are left to imagine what grew quietly in between. Most of us do not have a Sunaparanta on a map, but most of us have one somewhere in our life. A person who is difficult in the particular way that only this person is difficult. A situation that has asked for more patience than felt fair, that has taken more than it has given, that keeps returning no matter how carefully it has been arranged away. Perhaps a relationship that has cost years. A workplace that carries a kind of low-level hostility no one names out loud. A version of a conversation that keeps happening with the same person in slightly different clothes. The temptation is always to go around it. This is often wise. Knowing when to step back is its own kind of intelligence. But Punna's story holds a question that is separate from whether to engage. It is about what we carry when we do. Think of a moment when you knew something difficult was coming. A conversation you could not avoid. A person you were going to have to face. Most of us feel the narrowing before we even arrive. The body tightens. The mind rehearses everything that could go wrong. We brace against what has not yet happened. Puna walked towards Sunaparanta with no bracing at all. The danger was real. He knew it. And something in him had already made its peace with every version of what that danger could become. This is what the early Buddhist teachings call equanimity. Not the flatness of not caring, not the strength that comes from suppressing what frightens us. Something quieter and harder than either, the settled recognition, arrived at slowly and through practice, that outer circumstances, however difficult they become, cannot reach the deepest part of what we are. Puna had not become someone who felt nothing. He had become someone who had stopped organizing his peace around the hope that difficult things would not arrive. His groundedness did not need the people of Sunaparanta to choose kindness. It was not waiting for anything from them at all. Most of us discover this in smaller doses. A difficult conversation that ended better than expected. A situation that felt unbearable until, at some point, it wasn't. The slow gathering of evidence that we are more durable than we thought. The Buddha tested Puna 5 times. Each question was the same question in a harder form. Is your peace real, or does it only hold when circumstances cooperate? Puna answered 5 times. Each time, the answer was the same. Real. There is something in that for anyone who has ever had a person in their life who seems designed to test them. The person who never quite arrives at reasonable. The situation that never quite resolves. Whether they intend it or not, they are asking the same question the Buddha asked. Is your peace real? Puna went to Sunaparanta, not because he was not afraid, because fear had nothing left to take from him. In another room, 32 of the wisest minds in the tradition had each offered their most beautiful answer, and the one that silenced them all made no sound. The question had 32 answers. Each one was given by a bodhisattva, a being who had dedicated their life, and many lives before it, to understanding the nature of the mind and the liberation of others. The gathering had been called to address one of the oldest questions in Buddhist philosophy. What is non-duality? Non-duality is the recognition that the categories we draw between things, between self and other, between suffering and liberation, between the ordinary and the sacred, are constructions, provisional, capable of dissolving under a sustained gaze. That what we call I is porous, shifting, relational. That the distance between ourselves and peace is made of habit. The first bodhisattva spoke of birth and death. How to see neither arising nor ceasing is to enter this teaching. Another spoke of the I and what it sees. How to hold neither as separate is to live without division. A third spoke of purity and defilement. How when the nature of one is seen as the same as the nature of the other, the distinction dissolves. This continued through 32 voices. Each answer was careful and precise, each one pointing toward the same unreachable thing from a different angle. The room was full of accumulated wisdom, and the wisdom was building, getting closer to something. That was at least how it felt. Then Manjushri spoke. Manjushri is the bodhisattva of wisdom in the Mahayana tradition. The one who, when wisdom takes a form, takes this one. His answer went one step beyond everything that had come before. To enter non-duality, one must go beyond all words and explanations, beyond all speaking and showing, beyond all questions and answers. Living beyond these is the entry. And then Manjushri turned to Vimalakirti. Vimalakirti was not a monk. He was a householder, a layman who lived in the world, with family, with wealth, with all the ordinary difficulty that comes with both, and who happened to understand the teachings with a depth that made many monastics uncomfortable. In a room of 32 accomplished voices, he had been the last to be asked. "We have all spoken, noble sir," Manjushri said. "Now it is your turn. How does a bodhisattva enter the teaching of non-duality?" The room waited. 32 answers had already been given by the wisest people in the gathering, and the most unexpected person in the room had not yet spoken. Vimalakirti said nothing. The text records that the silence held. Not long in clock time, long in the way silences hold when the right person is holding them. Manjushri spoke again. "Excellent. This truly is the Bodhisattva's entry into the non-dual teaching. No letters, no words, no showing, no knowing." And there was nothing left to add. What happened in that gathering has been told and retold for more than 1,500 years. The story spread across Buddhist Asia because of a quality it had that longer and more elaborate teachings rarely achieve. It could be told in a single breath. A layman's silence, given once, said what 32 masters had not quite managed to say. 32 beautiful answers, and the one recognized as the highest made no sound at all. Why could it only have been silence? Because the moment you describe non-duality, you have already created a duality. There is now the one describing and the thing being described, the speaker and the spoken of. Every answer in that room, however beautiful, was itself a demonstration of the very separation it was trying to dissolve. Vimalakirti's silence had no edge to it. It was the thing the question was asking for. The Mahayana teachers have a name for what happened in that room: the thunderous silence. Not the silence of having nothing to say, but the silence of something so complete it has no edge left to name. We have tasted something like this ourselves, in small doses. The pause after a long argument when the fighting stops and something unfamiliar settles. The moment we stop rehearsing a difficult conversation and the room suddenly becomes quiet in a different way. The end of a long exhale when the questions are still there but have temporarily stopped demanding answers. These are brief, and they pass quickly, and most of us do not recognize them as anything other than tiredness. They are small versions of what Vimalakirti's silence was pointing toward. We are probably not Vimalakirti. We are likely still somewhere inside our own 32 answers, cycling through the explanations we offer ourselves for why things are the way they are, still searching for the formulation that will finally settle what has not yet settled. For years, some of us, for decades, the same questions returning, the same loop of reasoning, the same hope that this time the answer will hold. What this story offers is permission to set the question down for a moment, without having answered it. To let what is unresolved rest without forcing it toward resolution. The peace we are looking for does not live at the end of the answering. It is here, in the pause, in the breath before the next thought, in the small clearing that opens when we stop, for a moment, filling the silence in. A different kind of wait was waiting, one built in the mind from a moment that was never quite what it seemed. They came to the Buddha because a man in the forest would not stop being happy. This requires some explanation. Buddha had been a king. He had worn robes of the finest cotton, eaten from silver bowls, slept in rooms with guarded doors on every side. He had had everything a man of his world could want, and he had given all of it up to ordain as a monk. And now he was living alone in the forest with almost nothing. And from the trees, again and again, the monks kept hearing the same two words. What happiness! Oh, what happiness! They did not know what to make of it at first. But the exclamations kept coming, and as they did, the monks began to assemble a picture. Buddha had been a king. Kings had guards, women's quarters, storerooms full of grain, the right to decide matters of life and death for the people around them. And now here was this same man, alone in a forest clearing with nothing, calling out to the trees. They had seen something like this before, or thought they had. A monk who had come from comfort and talked too much about it. A man who said he was fine and whose face said otherwise. They knew what the sound of longing sounded like, even when the words being used were different ones. Obviously, Buddha was missing his former life. Obviously, this happiness he kept announcing was something else. The sound of a man trying to convince himself he had made the right choice. So they carried their concern across the forest to the Buddha. They did not go in malice. They went because they were certain they had seen something clearly. A monk behaving like this, surely it was a sign of something unresolved. Surely a man fully given over to the training did not make sounds like that. Whatever Buddha was calling happiness, it had a different name. The Buddha sent for Buddha. When Buddha arrived, the Buddha asked him plainly, was it true? Was it true that he walked in the forest saying, "What happiness, oh what happiness"? It was true, Badia said. And what was in his mind when he said it? Badia answered without hesitation. When he had been king, there was fear. A fear so constant and familiar that he had forgotten what it felt like to be without it. Guards inside the palace, guards outside, guards at every gate and every staircase and every corridor. And still, underneath all of that protection, an animal watchfulness that never quite slept. He had eaten at tables heavy with food and not tasted it. He had lain in beds of silk and not rested. The women's quarters, the grain, the silver bowls, all of it was beautiful, and all of it had to be defended. And to defend something, you had to know that others wanted it, and knowing that meant the danger was never far. A king with everything is a man who lives inside the knowledge that someone is always coming for it. He had stood inside that knowledge for years without naming it as fear. It was simply the ground he moved across, the texture of every room, the quality of every conversation. And now here he was in the forest, alone, with no guard, no gate, no storehouse, nothing to take, and no one arriving to take it. The fear that had been there since before he could remember was simply gone. Not managed, not pressed below the surface by discipline. Absent. That was what he was thinking of, Badia said, when he said, "What happiness?" The monks had walked across the forest carrying something that had never existed. They had arrived at their picture of Badia, the grieving former king, the monk who had not quite made the crossing, before they had asked him a single question. Each new exclamation from the trees had been fed into an image already forming, and the image had felt like understanding. It had felt like perception, like simply seeing what was there. But what was there, in that clearing, was a man standing in the actual fact of his own freedom. He had no idea he was being watched and assembled into a story. He was standing in the early morning with no guards and no trembling, saying the only thing that was true. The mind does this quietly and continuously. It fills the spaces between what it knows with what it has seen before. A laughter that does not quite fit must be hiding something. A contentment in someone you know to be struggling must be fragile, or forced, or a sign they have not yet faced what they are carrying. We do not notice the construction because it arrives already completed, already certain of itself. It has the weight of truth. It has the texture of simply knowing. But the monks walked for some time through the forest carrying it, and when they set it down in front of the Buddha, it dissolved in the space of one short conversation. He had put it all down the moment he entered the forest. What the monks carried to the Buddha, Badia had never once picked up. There may be someone in your life whose happiness you have been watching with concern, whose ease seems impossible given what you know of their situation. The picture of what they must really be feeling is probably already assembled. It might be worth asking how much of that picture belongs to them and how much has been yours to carry all along. Some carry something through their whole life and find the door to setting it down only at the very end. The next story is about a man who had a very good reason, every single year, to wait until tomorrow. The first time Dhananjani truly had nothing else to do was when he was dying. He was a Brahmin, a man of some standing, known to the Buddha's community and known for something specific. He was always about to begin. There was no one who doubted his sincerity. The teachings mattered to him. He said so often, and he meant it. He simply had, at any given moment, a very good reason to wait a little longer. His family required him. That was true. His household would not run without his attention. Also true. He served the king, and the king's work was not something he could set aside on a schedule of his own choosing. Also true. Later, then, when the children were grown, when the debts were cleared, when the season turned, when things settled, things did not settle. This is the thing about things. They do not settle. One obligation clears and another arrives to take its place. The children grow and bring grandchildren. The debts clear and new ones form. The seasons turn and return, and each one arrives with its own legitimate demand, its own good reason, its own pressing need that says, just not yet. Each year, a new reason arrived. The reasons were different in texture, but the same in shape. Something needed handling first, and then the practice would have its proper time. One year, it was the household. Another year, it was the work he did for the king. Another year, he could not have said clearly what it was, only that the moment had not quite arrived yet. This is what makes Dhananjani's story difficult to sit with. The reasons were not false. Each one was real. He was not lying to himself, and he was not a lazy man. He was a man doing the best he could with a life that genuinely asked a great deal of him. The practice kept getting placed just over the horizon of the next thing that needed handling. Most people who hear this story recognize it. Not from the outside looking in, from the inside. When Sariputta arrived at his bedside, Dhananjani's body was failing. He was in pain, the breath coming with effort. Sariputta asked him gently, "How is it with you, friend? Is it getting better or worse?" "Worse," Dhananjani said. "Getting worse." Sariputta did not fill the room with consolation or regret. He asked Dhananjani if there was anything left in him that could turn toward a practice. Dhananjani had heard these teachings before. He had been to gatherings where the monks spoke, had sat in the company of people who were practicing, had felt something stir in his chest at the words and thought, "Yes." when the time is right. He had thought this many times. There was still something left in him. Sariputta taught him a meditation on boundless goodwill, the cultivation of a heart that extends itself outward in all directions, without holding anything back, without drawing a border around who is included and who is not. It begins simply, a wish extended to all beings without exception. May they be well. May they be at ease. May whatever they are carrying find some rest. And then the same wish turned inward to the one practicing. The heart that had been given over to others for a lifetime turning, in this last hour, to include itself. Dhananyani practiced. What happened next, the text records without drama, simply as fact. Dhananyani attained the Brahma realm. A genuine rebirth in a good and wholesome state. Real. Not imagined. Something actually arrived in the last room of his life, from a practice begun when there was almost no time left to begin it. Later, the Buddha would tell Sariputta that he could have led Dhananyani further. If Sariputta had pointed toward the deeper liberations, Dhananyani might have reached them. The ground in him was fertile right at the end. He was capable of more than was offered. This means the delay cost him something. The teaching holds that clearly. A life of postponed practice is a real cost. But the door was not closed. This is what the story has carried across 2,500 years. The door was not closed. In the final hours, with the breath already difficult, something opened. The last thing Dhananyani did before he died was practice for the first time. And it was enough to open a door. There is a reason this story has stayed. It is the story most people do not want to find themselves inside, and recognize immediately the moment they hear it. The ones who hear themselves in Dhananyani and wonder, is the door still open for me? The answer the teaching gives is, yes. Delay has its cost, and the teaching does not pretend otherwise. But right now, in whatever moment this is, the door is still here. Later can become now even when later has almost run out. The turn is always available. Dhananyani waited his whole life and found something real in the final hour. The story that follows moves at a different speed entirely. He had nothing to give. He gave everything he had. He was a young boy playing in the street the way children play, without reason, without plan, fully inside the moment. His attention was on the game, on the ground, on nothing particular. He was just a child in the dirt of an ordinary morning. And then the Buddha appeared at the end of the road. He came in the way of alms round, walking the quiet, deliberate walk of someone who has nowhere to be except exactly here, monks behind him, the morning carrying that particular stillness before it warms. The boy looked up. Something happened inside him before thought could arrive to name it. A wanting, sudden and complete. He wanted to give something. It filled him the way a feeling does when it arrives before the mind has had time to complicate it. He looked at what he had. Nothing. No food, no flour, no cloth, no coin, nothing prepared, nothing ready. He was a child who had come outside to play, not to make offerings to anyone. What he had, all he had, was the street itself, the ground beneath his feet, the ordinary dirt of an ordinary road. He bent down and scooped up a handful. He shaped it in his palms the way you would shape a gift, cupped and careful. In some place deeper than thinking, he imagined it as grain. He imagined it as something worthy. The procession was still moving. He ran to the front of it and held out his hands. He stood there. The monks continued past on either side. He held the dirt in cupped palms and waited to see if anyone would stop. He was not sure if this was foolish. He thought it might be. He did it anyway. What the Buddha did next is the teaching. He stopped. He accepted the offering. In the way you receive a genuine gift, not as a courtesy or a kindness extended to a child, but as a real offering from a real giver. He took the dirt into the alms bowl with the same unhurried attention he brought to every offering on that road. He received it as he would have received rice from the house of a king. Then he walked on. The boy stood there with empty hands. Something in him was not empty. He had given the only thing he had, and it had been received as though it were exactly enough. What the tradition records next takes a longer view. According to the Ashoka preserved in the northern Buddhist tradition, that moment planted something across lifetimes. The boy's intention, the wholeness of it, the purity of the wanting to give before the question of what to give even arose, entered the stream of causes that eventually brought him back as Ashoka. A king who built hospitals and rest houses across the subcontinent, who sent the teachings out by messenger and carved them into rock, who planted trees along roads so travelers would have shade, whose edicts are still legible on stone after 2,500 years. All of it downstream from a handful of dirt. This is what the teaching on generosity inside early Buddhism actually says. Generosity is a quality of the mind before it is a quality of the gift. The measure lives entirely in the wholeness with which something is given. Think of the difference between giving someone your full attention and giving them half of it while wondering if they deserve it. The second is not generosity with a qualifier. It is something else wearing generosity's clothes. An offering from a full heart, even if what leaves the hand is almost nothing, lands differently than something valuable given from obligation or performance. The intention is the offering. Everything else is wrapping. The dirt was the finest thing the boy owned, because it was everything he owned. He held nothing back. Most of us are waiting to have something worth giving. Waiting until we have healed enough, understood enough, become enough. Until the thing we offer will not embarrass us. And so we hold back what we actually have, right now, in favor of something we have not yet become. The heart knows what it wants to offer. The mind keeps finding reasons to wait for better conditions. The handful already in our hands, already real, still waiting to be given. The boy did not wait. He gave what was in his hands, and it was received as though it were the finest thing he owned. Because it was. The boy walked away with empty hands and something he had not carried in. The story after this begins in the opposite place. Milarepa killed 35 people through sorcery at a wedding feast. He became Tibet's greatest saint. The path between those two facts is the subject of this story, and it is not a short distance. It is not a comfortable one. It matters who he was before the story found him. His father died when Milarepa was a child, and his uncle and aunt took what was not theirs: the land, the house, the livestock, everything his father had accumulated. His mother and he were given nothing. They were reduced to working as servants on the land that had once been theirs. His mother worked and got barely enough to eat. Milarepa watched her become smaller, year by year, under the weight of what had been taken. She burned with it for years. That burning was what she eventually passed to him, a child who had lost his father, then his inheritance, and was now being handed his mother's rage as the thing to carry forward. When Milarepa was old enough, she sent him to learn magic. Not to protect himself, to destroy the people who had destroyed them. He was good at it. He found a teacher of the dark arts. He studied and practiced and learned to call down hail that flattened crops and to send what the tradition calls harmful forces into gatherings of people. At his uncle's son's wedding feast, he used what he had learned. 35 people died. He returned home. His mother was satisfied. Milarepa was not. What arrived in him in the days after was the full recognition of what he had done. Not guilt in the ordinary sense of the word, something closer to the ground than guilt. The 35 faces kept returning. The celebration he had walked into. What the feast must have been like before he arrived, and what it became. He had done exactly what he had been sent to do. He could not live inside that. He needed a teacher. Someone who could work with what he had become. He found Marpa. Marpa the translator was a tantric master who had travelled twice to India to bring back the deepest teachings of his lineage. He was not known for gentleness, when Milarepa came to him and told him everything. The sorcery, the deaths, the 35 people at the wedding feast. Marpa did not turn him away. He put him to work. Build a tower of stone on the hillside. Milarepa built it. Tear it down and put the stones back where they came from. Milarepa did. Build another, a different shape, on a different part of the hill. Milarepa built it. Tear it down. Each time the tower came down, Milarepa carried the same stones back up the hill. The same stones, in a different arrangement, on a different part of the slope. No explanation from Marpa. No teaching in exchange for the labor. Just the instruction and the expectation that it would be followed. This went on for years. His back and hands were broken by the carrying of stone. And each time Milarepa came to Marpa asking for the teaching he had been promised, Marpa refused. You are not ready. Go back to the hill. Milarepa asked Marpa's wife, Dagmama, to plead for him. She did, with real feeling. Marpa refused. He asked other students to intercede. Marpa turned him away each time. Not yet. The other students received teachings. Milarepa carried stones and watched. There came a night when he could not go on. Years of labor, years of being refused, years of watching others receive what he could not have, and underneath all of it, the weight of what he had done, the 35 faces, the wedding feast. He broke completely. The tradition describes this as the moment when a person has stopped trying to deserve the teaching and simply does not know how to continue. Marpa came to him. He embraced him. And he told him what the years of towers had actually been, the only path Marpa knew through the karma Milarepa had created. The hardships had been the burning. What remained, after all of it, was a man who had nothing left to defend. The transmission, when it finally came, arrived into someone so emptied out that there was nothing left to misunderstand it. Marpa gave him everything he had carried back from India. Milarepa went into the mountains after that. Caves, alone, extreme cold, almost no food. His skin turned green from the nettles he ate to survive. He sang, he meditated, he stayed in the cold and let the practice do what it does when there is nothing left standing in its way. His songs became the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, a collection so stripped of performance, so direct in its instruction, that practitioners have carried it for 900 years into the hardest nights of their lives. Students came from across Tibet to sit at the feet of a man who had been, by any reckoning, the worst person in any room he had ever entered. They found a man who was thin, who smelled of cave and cold, who laughed easily and sang them songs about the nature of the mind. And they sat in the cold beside him and felt something they had not expected to feel. This is not a story about the past being undone. Milarepa did not forget what he had done. The 35 people did not come back. The karma had real weight, and it cost him real years to move through it. The tradition holds the cost plainly, and it holds the path. Both things are true. The damage was real, and the path remained open. The tradition is speaking to the people in the back of the room, the ones who arrived certain that whatever is being offered could not possibly include them. The tradition offers Milarepa as evidence, a demonstration of what the path can do when a person stops protecting themselves from it. He is held up as proof that the door is open in a way that does not make exceptions based on what someone has done before. The path simply asks, are you willing to carry it all the way through? What you have done is in the past. The path is here. Milarepa walked the longest road in this story. What comes next is a much shorter journey and a much older door. He pressed himself against the wall. He had been doing it his whole life. Sunita worked as a refuse collector in the city, the most lowly occupation in a society that organized itself by occupation and kept careful track of who belonged where. He collected the things people left behind after use and carried them to the edge of the city where they could be left further behind. Day after day, a small life at the margins of a large one. When someone of higher standing came down the road, Sunita stepped aside. He pressed himself against the wall, bent his head, and made himself as invisible as he could. He was not invisible. He was just not seen. This was the shape of his world, and he did not have a name for it because when something has always been true, it does not feel like a condition. It feels like the floor. One morning, Sunita was on the road with his basket when the Buddha and his monks came walking toward him. Sunita did what he always did. He stepped to the side. He pressed himself against the wall. He bent his head. He tried to take up as little space as possible. The Buddha kept walking. Toward him. Not past him. Not around him. Toward him. The Buddha stopped in front of Sunita. He looked at him directly. He asked about his life. He sat with him there by the wall in the early morning and listened to what Sunita had to say. What we have in the Theragatha, the collected verses of the elder monks of the Pali Canon, is Sunita's own stanza, composed in old age to describe his life. He says this: he was of very low birth. He was poor. There was no work lower than his. And the enlightened one came to him. He says it with the quality of someone who has had years to sit with the improbability of it and still finds it improbable. The Buddha taught him and ordained him. Sunita practiced. The tradition says he practiced with the specific quality of dedication that comes from receiving something you were absolutely certain was reserved for someone else. He had been trained by a lifetime of experience to expect nothing. And then something arrived that his entire world had said was not for him. He held it the way a person holds something they cannot quite believe they are holding. He practiced with complete attention, the attention of someone who knows exactly how improbable it is that they are there at all, receiving this, and does not take a single breath of it for granted. The gratitude that comes from that kind of surprise does not fade quickly. He attained arahantship, full liberation. The tradition records this without qualification. The same word used for the monks who came from the highest families, who had studied their whole lives, who had access and teachers and resources Sunita had never touched. The same word, the same arrival. What followed is something the tradition records because it contains a particular kind of teaching. Kings, nobles, people who had spent their lives looking past the refuse collectors of the city, these people now bowed in Sunita's presence. He received their bows as someone who remembered exactly where he had been when the Buddha found him, pressed against a wall, trying to disappear. The world that had made him invisible had not changed its nature. Only his relationship to it had. He remained simple. Liberation did not make him grand. It made him more plainly what he already was, without the part where he pressed himself against walls. There is a question this story asks that is worth sitting with. Sunita was told by every structure around him that the spiritual path was not for people like him. The life he had was the life he was given, and he had never been offered reason to imagine any other. He was taught to step aside, and the teaching was so consistent and so complete that it had become invisible to him. It had become what he thought he was. The assumption had been repeated so often it had the texture of fact. The Buddha walked toward him anyway. The path does not assess eligibility. It does not weigh the accident of birth, or occupation, or the specific texture of what you have been told about yourself. The door does not carry that kind of lock. The lock Sunita carried was made of assumptions, the long patient accumulation of being told his place, so consistently and from so many directions that it had come to feel like truth. This is what the teaching asks us to look at, what we have accepted as permanent that was never anything more than the convenience of someone else's world. Who told you that you were not the right kind of person for this? Sunita was told the same. The Buddha walked toward him anyway. Sunita pressed himself against the wall, and the Buddha walked straight toward him. The wall in the next story is made of questions. Is the universe eternal? Does the self survive death? Is there a self at all? Malunkyaputta had been asking the Buddha these questions for years, and the Buddha would not answer them. He would not say yes. He would not say no. He would not offer the carefully qualified middle position that might at least give Malunkyaputta something to work with. He simply taught what he taught. Suffering, the arising of suffering, the cessation of suffering, the path. Every philosophical tradition eventually arrives at questions like these. Every serious practitioner meets them in the dark and realizes the comfortable answer they had before starting no longer holds. Is death the end of everything, or the beginning of something else? Is there a permanent self beneath the changing surface of experience? Or is the self itself the appearance? These are not small questions. Malunkyaputta was serious about them, and the silence of the teaching on these exact points had become, for him, unbearable. Malunkyaputta had had enough. He went to the Buddha and said it plainly. If the Buddha would not answer these questions, he was leaving. He had walked away from his previous life. He had sat through years of teaching that circled these questions without touching them. His patience had run its full length. He was owed answers. The Buddha listened to this calmly, and then he asked a question of his own. When you joined the order, did I ever promise to answer those questions? Malunkyaputta had no answer for this. He had not been promised anything of the kind. He had come because of suffering. He had stayed because the teaching was working on him in ways he could sense without quite being able to explain it. But the questions had kept growing as the practice deepened, and at some point they had taken on the weight of something he needed to get through before he could go further. A wall made of questions. The Buddha told him a story. A man is shot by a poisoned arrow. His companions send for a surgeon. The surgeon arrives with the instruments to remove it. The man says, "Wait. Before you remove it, I need to know the name of the archer, his caste, his height and build, the color of his eyes. I need to know which village he comes from and which family. I need to know the exact species of wood in the shaft of this arrow, the type of feathers on the fletching, whether the arrowhead was hammered or cast." "The surgeon is here," the Buddha said. "The instruments are ready. Everything needed to remove this arrow from your body is present right now. The arrow can be taken out." And the man is asking about the fletching. He paused. That man would die, Malunkyaputta, and those things would still be unknown. The poison was not going to wait while the inventory of metaphysical questions was completed. The arrow would continue to do what arrows do to human bodies, regardless of whether the archer's name was discovered, regardless of whether the universe turned out to be eternal or not, regardless of whether the self persisted after death. The man with the questions would die with the questions, The answers, if they existed anywhere, continuing to exist beyond him, unseen. There is a reason this image has survived 2,500 years in the exact form the Buddha gave it. It is not subtle. It is precise. The arrow is suffering, the specific distress that brought Marlunkyaputa to the practice in the first place. The questions are what he is using to justify not letting the surgeon remove it. The Buddha is not saying the questions are foolish, or that a good answer would be unwelcome. He is saying they are not prerequisites. The teaching does not ask Marlunkyaputa to pretend the questions are not there. It asks him to notice that he has been using them to avoid something that was always more immediate. The path does not require their resolution before it can be walked. The certainty you are waiting for is not what opens the door. What would it feel like to set the questions down? Not permanently, not as giving up. Just for the length of this breath, to let them rest beside you instead of standing in front of you. Most of the distress the arrow is causing has nothing to do with these questions. It predates them. It will be there whether or not the questions are ever answered. This is what the arrow is made of. The raw and wordless sense that something is wrong, that there is pain, that the ground beneath this life is not as stable as you once believed. No answer to a metaphysical question changes that. What changes it is what the teaching points to, the specific practical path of attending to the arrow directly. The tradition does not record a dramatic shift at this moment in the sutta. Marlunkyaputa fell silent. He received the teaching. He continued to practice. The questions may have stayed with him. They tend to. What the sutta records is a man who arrived demanding answers and left with permission to practice without them. But what changed shape around those questions was the relationship. From a wall he needed to get through before he could move, to a companion he could carry without needing it to resolve first. What question are you insisting on having answered before you let yourself rest? What if it does not need an answer first? What if the path is here now, regardless of what the universe turns out to be, regardless of what happens after death, regardless of which question you have been waiting to resolve? The arrow needs removing. The surgeon does not need your answer about the eternal universe before picking up the instruments. That is all the certainty the teaching asks for. Some stories begin when someone goes looking. The one after this begins when someone was found. Before dawn, a servant looked into a rubbish heap and found something still breathing. The crows had already begun to circle. That is what made Prince Abaya stop. He had been leaving the palace early that morning, passing through the edge of the city while it was still dark, when he noticed the birds gathering above a pile of refuse at the road's edge. Not one or two birds. A circle of them, patient and low. The kind that meant something below them had already stopped struggling. He sent a servant to look. The servant came back. "A live child, sir." The infant was brought in, cleaned, fed, kept warm, given a name, Jivaka, the alive one, because when they looked, he still was. That name is the whole teaching. Before the prince, before the education, before the medicine and the mango grove and everything that followed, someone looked into the last place and found him alive. That was the beginning of everything. His mother had been a young woman in Rajagaha, unmarried, with no safe way to explain what had happened. In the dark hour before sunrise, she wrapped the infant in cloth, walked to the edge of the city, and left him in the refuse where discarded things went. She was not cruel. She was frightened and trapped, and she could not see another way through what had closed around her. The child could not speak. He could not call out. He could not arrange himself into something easier to find, or signal that he was there, or demonstrate that he was worth the trouble of stopping. The one thing he was doing, breathing, he was doing without any intention behind it at all. And yet the path arrived. Prince Abhaya raised him, and when Jivaka was old enough, arranged for him to study medicine in Takasila under the greatest physician of the age. Jivaka spent 7 years there. He learned what illness looks like before it shows on the surface. He learned how to move toward a suffering body with precision rather than force, how to listen to what the body was trying to say and answer it directly. When he returned to Rajagaha, he could do what other physicians had already given up trying. He healed the king. He healed monks who came to him with fevers and open wounds. He became known across the whole region as someone who could reach in where others no longer went. And through this work, he entered the circle of the Buddha. When Devadatta's followers threw a boulder down the hillside toward the Buddha, and a fragment of stone struck and wounded his foot, it was Jivaka who came to treat it. When the community fell ill, it was Jivaka who arrived. He gave his own mango grove, the Jivakambhavana, to the Sangha as a resting place, so they would always have somewhere to stop when they were passing through. He never ordained. His path was medicine. And through medicine, the people who carried the teaching forward were tended and kept alive. None of this began with a decision. None of it began with a search. It began in a rubbish heap before sunrise, with a servant walking back to the prince to say, "A live child, sir." Buddhism speaks of karuna, the quality that moves toward pain rather than away from it. Most of the time we imagine that quality as something grand, a deliberate turning of the whole self toward suffering. What Abhaya practiced that morning was quieter than that. He noticed the crows. He sent someone to look. He did not decide in advance that what he found would be worth saving. He just looked. What Jivaka's story makes plain is this. Finding does not require the one who is lost to first become findable. The path does not wait for readiness. It moves toward what is still alive. You do not have to make yourself visible to be seen. You do not have to stop being in the dark before something can find you there. You do not have to have earned it first. Jivaka never reached for any of it. The path found him before he had hands to reach with. If the path found a newborn in a rubbish heap before dawn, while the crows were still circling above him, where is it looking right now? Jivaka was found before he had words for any of it. After this, a woman who searched, lost, searched again, lost again, and reached the path only when the world had finally finished with her. The man she loved was on death row. She had him freed. He took her to a cliff to kill her. Bada Kundalakesa had been a merchant's daughter in Rajagaha, raised in comfort, sheltered from most of what the city contained. One morning she looked through a window of her family home and saw a thief being led through the street to his execution. Something happened to her in that moment that she could not explain and could not undo. She told her father she would die if he was not freed. Her father bribed the guards. The execution was cancelled. The thief was brought to the house. They were married. He suggested a walk one afternoon, a celebration, the hilltop outside the city where you could see everything spread out below. When they were standing at the edge, she understood what was about to happen. He had seen what her family's wealth could do and wanted it for himself. She was the last obstacle between him and all of it. She asked for one last embrace. He agreed. She put her arms around him and pushed. She survived. She walked down the hill and out of the city and kept walking. What do you do after something like that? What shape does a life take when you have seen what love was capable of, and what it made you capable of? Bada shaved her head with a thorn. She put on the white robes of a wandering ascetic and left everything her family had built behind her. She would travel. She would debate. She would find the understanding that could hold the weight of what had happened on that cliff. She became extraordinary at it. Town after town, she would plant a branch of rose-apple wood at the city gate, a signal to any scholar or philosopher that she was willing to meet them in open debate. Nobody removed her branch. Nobody accepted the challenge and came away standing. She was known across the region as someone whose mind could not be cornered. For years she was undefeated. And still, something was unanswered. Winning does not resolve anything. It quiets the noise long enough to keep moving, gives the mind somewhere to put its energy, keeps the deeper question at a distance long enough to get through another day. But the question remains underneath every victory, unchanged, patient. The cliff was still there every morning when she woke up. She had just learned how to keep moving fast enough that it could not catch her. A victory in debate, a new city, a new opponent, a new night in a different place, and the question stayed one step behind. One day Buddha arrived in Savatthi and planted her branch at the city gate. A monk named Sariputta walked past, one of the Buddha's closest disciples, widely known as the sharpest mind in the tradition. He looked at the branch. He reached down and picked it up. They sat together and she gave everything she had. Then Sariputta stopped. He reached for a handful of sand and set it down in front of her. He said, "Take away." She sat with it. Take away. Take away from what? She turned it over from every direction she knew how to approach. In years of debate, she had never encountered a question that stopped her. The sand sat there. She could not answer. She asked him to answer it for her. He did. He spoke about subtraction, about the nature of what persists when you remove what is added, about what is left when everything that was picked up is set down again. She listened to the whole thing. Something shifted, not in her understanding, but somewhere beneath understanding. She asked to be ordained. She went to Mahapajapati Gautami, the leader of the women's Sangha, and became a nun. Liberation came not long after. What the story cannot fully explain is what changed in that moment. What a handful of sand and 2 words could do that years of discipline and travel and unbroken winning had not. Every debate Buddha had entered before was a contest she could win on her own terms. Sariputta's question was something else entirely. It was asking her to be still, to look at something as ordinary as dirt in the hand and let it sit there without needing to solve it. To take away without knowing in advance what would remain. Buddhism returns to this again and again. The person who cannot be defeated is very far from free. Winning keeps the structure intact, keeps the self organized, keeps the question from landing. Liberation loosens the structure entirely. These are not 2 points on the same road. Buddha spent years becoming the best at something that was moving her away from what she needed. And the moment she could not win, something became possible that winning had been blocking. Buddha carried a cliff on her back for years. She carried it through every city and every debate and every season of walking. The wandering was her way of staying in motion, keeping the question moving so it could not catch her and settle. Sariputta's sand made her stop. Take away. The practice is not complicated. The practice is to sit with the simplest thing and let it reach you where argument cannot. The cliff does not have to be resolved before you can be free. Freedom is what remains when the motion finally stops. You do not have to win your way out of what happened to you. Buddha tried that for years and the length of the whole country. 2 words and a handful of sand did what years of winning could not. Buddha searched until there was nowhere left to go. What comes next is the opposite direction. A woman the world came toward, instead of a woman who went toward the world. Everyone came to Ambapali. She had been the most celebrated courtesan in Vesali for as long as anyone could remember. Kings sent word. Nobles competed for her time. The Likavi princes who governed the city, a powerful ruling council not accustomed to being told to wait, waited. She was wealthy, skilled, admired without reservation, and she moved through the world with the ease of someone who has never had to go looking for what she needed. The world came to her. This was the shape of her life for many years. Not a life of searching or struggle, but a life of arrival, of being the fixed point that everything else moved toward. What she made of that, what it gave her and what it withheld, the poem she wrote much later would make plain. Then the Buddha came to Vesali and camped in her mango grove just outside the city. She went to see him. She drove out in her carriage, entered the grove, and sat down to listen. Whatever she heard was enough to make her invite him and the entire Sangha to a meal at her home the following day. On the road back to the city, she passed the Likavi princes coming the other way. They were on their way to extend the same invitation. They looked at her carriage and understood from her expression that she had already given it. They offered her a very large sum to hand the invitation over to them. She told them no. They snapped their fingers and said she had beaten them and drove on. She went home and prepared the meal. The next morning, she fed the Buddha and the Sangha herself. When the meal was finished and the teaching that followed had ended, she stood and offered the grove to the Sangha as a permanent gift. The most celebrated woman in Vesali handed over one of her finest possessions to a group of wandering monastics and sat down again as if this were the most natural thing she had ever done. Something had shifted. Or perhaps it had been shifting for some time without her having the name for it. She eventually ordained. She gave up the carriage, the wealth, the house, the whole carefully constructed life of being the person everyone wanted to be near. In the practice, she found what all the years of being sought and admired and desired had pointed toward without quite being able to give. Her poem in the Therigatha is one of the most striking pieces of writing in the whole Pali Canon. It is an inventory. She goes through her own body, part by part, describing what each was in youth and what it has become in age. She does not rush. She does not look away. Her hair, she says, was once dark and fragrant, like a swarm of bees settling over a flower. Now it is grey and thin and rough to the touch. Such is this body. The truth speaker says nothing else. Her eyes were once dark and clear, like polished gems set in gold. Now they are dull and sunken. Such is this body. Her skin was once smooth, like a drum freshly stretched. Now it is loose and covered in wrinkles. Her feet, she says, were once soft and smooth as cotton. Now they are cracked and rough. Such is this body. She goes through the whole body this way, without flinching, without sorrow, without asking for any of it to have been otherwise. Each verse ends the same way. Such is this body. The truth speaker says nothing else. The truth speaker is the body itself. This is what makes the poem so difficult to read quickly and so easy to carry afterward. She is not performing acceptance. She is not telling herself a comforting story about impermanence to soften the loss. She is simply describing what she sees, with the same precision and attention she must once have brought to adorning herself. The care that went into being beautiful is now going into watching beauty pass. The quality of attention is the same. What it is directed at has changed. And underneath the inventory, something is completely steady. What Amberpali's poem teaches is something that sounds straightforward and takes a long time to fully hear. The thing that made her famous, her beauty, her particular quality of being sought and desired, was always a passing condition of something that was never passing. It arose. It lasted for a time. It faded. And the awareness that watched it arise and persist and fade is still present, still here, unchanged. That was always the real thing. This is the quiet at the center of the poem. If a woman who was once the most desired person in her world can describe her own aging body without sorrow, it is because she has found something that does not age. Something that was there before the beauty arrived and is here now that it has gone. The beauty was a condition. The awareness was never one. Most of us spend years trying to stabilize what cannot be stabilized, holding on to a version of ourselves that the body itself is already quietly letting go. We fight the release, or we look away from it, or we stay very busy so we do not have to see it happening. Amberpali looked directly at it. She sat with what she saw and described it clearly. And the poem she left behind is what that kind of honesty sounds like from the inside. Her mango grove is long gone. The city of Vesali is gone. The beauty she describes verse by verse, so precisely, so completely, is gone too. And the awareness that watched it all, held it all, released it all without grasping, that is what remains in these verses, still speaking. Amberpali grew lighter as beauty itself became the teacher. The next story is the mirror image, a man who had all the knowledge and still could not be free, until the night he finally stopped reaching for it. He knew more Dhamma than any monk alive. He had not yet attained liberation. This is the first thing to hold about Ananda. For 25 years he had walked beside the Buddha as his personal attendant, hearing every discourse, watching every teaching, remembering everything. He was the keeper of the word, The other monks came to him when they could not recall what the Buddha had said in a particular place about a particular matter, and Ananda could tell them precisely, down to the opening words and the closing words and the question that had prompted it. He was beloved. He was trusted. He was the most knowledgeable monk in the Sangha. If you wanted to know what the Buddha had taught about any topic, at any place, in any year of the 45 years of his ministry, Ananda was the one to ask. And he had not yet attained arahantship. When the Buddha died, Ananda wept. He wept openly, and the other monks found him leaning against a doorpost with his face in his hands. He was grieving, and something in the grief had nothing to do with the loss of his teacher, and everything to do with the recognition that he had been in the presence of the greatest mind he would ever know, and had still not crossed to the far shore. Some time after the parinirvana, the elder Mahakassapa convened the first council. It would be a gathering of the 500 most learned monks in the Sangha, assembled to recite and confirm the teachings before they scattered and the tradition branched. There was one condition for attending. Every member had to have attained full liberation. Ananda had not. Mahakassapa told him plainly. He was the guardian of the suttas, the one person whose presence at the council was essential above all others, and he had not yet attained what every other member had attained. He had one night. He went to his room. He began to practice. He practiced through the evening. He practiced as the night deepened and the monastery went quiet. He sat in the posture he had held 10,000 times beside the Buddha. He applied the objects of meditation he had heard described in 10,000 discourses. He was not a beginner, not uninstructed, not without guidance. He knew every meditation object the Buddha had ever taught, every sequence, every nuance of instruction. He brought all of it to bear. He worked with intensity and care, and 25 years of everything he had learned walking beside the teacher. The night went on. Near dawn, he had not yet attained. He decided to rest. Not to give up the practice, not to abandon the effort, simply to lay the body down for a moment and allow it to be horizontal. He moved from sitting toward lying down. His head had not yet touched the mat. In that movement, in the space between deciding to lie down and the moment of contact, suspended between two postures and fully inhabiting neither, Ananda attained arahantship. He had been upright and practicing all night and had not broken through. In the instant of releasing the effort, before his head had even reached the pillow, liberation arrived. He walked into the first council already free. What does this story say about effort? What does it say that the most knowledgeable monk in the Sangha, the man who could recite any discourse from memory, who had heard every teaching the Buddha ever gave, needed to stop practicing before practice could complete itself? Buddhism does not teach that effort is worthless. Ananda practiced for 25 years. The night before the council, he practiced with everything he had. None of that was wasted. All of it was necessary. It was also not sufficient on its own. What was missing was the release. This is a distinction that is easy to say and takes most people a long time to feel the difference between. Effort and gripping are not the same thing. Practice and straining are not the same thing. You can practice steadily and lightly, the way a skilled carpenter moves a plane across wood, with pressure that is consistent and even and never forced. Or you can grip the tool so hard your knuckles go white and the wood tears rather than smooths. The effort to attain can itself become an obstacle. A mind straining forward, gripping the practice, driving itself toward a destination, creates a kind of tension that liberation cannot move through. It is like holding the breath very tightly, convinced that not breathing is the path to breathing more deeply. The grip blocks what the grip is reaching for. Ananda did not give up. He simply redirected. He made the ordinary human decision to rest, and in that loosening of the grip, the thing he had been reaching for arrived. The specific image is worth sitting with. Not standing, not lying down. Between the two. Suspended in the transition. Neither fully in effort nor fully in rest. In the exact space where one posture was ending and another had not yet begun, there it was. There is something here for anyone who has been trying very hard for a long time. The trying matters. The years matter. But when the trying becomes a grinding, when practice turns into urgent straining toward arrival, Ananda's story is an invitation to notice the grip and ease it slightly. To allow the effort to become lighter without abandoning the direction. Liberation does not arrive when we chase it harder. It arrives in the space the chasing opens when it finally loosens. Not the space of giving up. The space of letting the practice be lighter than the urgency we've been bringing to it. Ananda needed to stop reaching before what he was reaching for could arrive. What follows goes the other way. Someone with nothing to credential them, who saw what the trained eye missed. He could not read the verse written on the wall. He understood it more completely than the man who wrote it. Huineng was a young man from a poor family in southern China who had come north to the monastery of the fifth patriarch Hongren. He arrived with no education, no credentials, and very little except the kind of attention that certain people carry without knowing it is unusual. Hongren put him to work in the kitchen, pounding rice. He pounded rice. Months passed. The monks studied their texts. Huineng pounded rice and listened to everything around him. The fifth patriarch was aging, and the question of succession had become pressing. He gathered his monks and told them he needed to know who had understood the teaching most deeply. he would transmit the robe and bowl, the symbols of Dharma succession, to whichever monk could demonstrate genuine understanding in verse. He asked them to write what they had realized. The head monk Shengshu was the obvious candidate. He had studied under Hongren for many years, was widely regarded as the most accomplished practitioner in the monastery, and everyone, including Hongren, seemed to assume the succession would go to him. He had given years to formal sitting, to study and recitation, to the kind of sustained effort that shapes a life from the outside in. The other monks did not bother writing verses of their own. In the middle of the night, Shengshu went to the corridor wall and wrote his verse where it could be seen by all. When the monks found it the next morning, they were moved. Hongren praised it publicly. Shengshu had written, "The mind is like a bright mirror on a stand. It must be polished constantly. Let no dust settle on it." This is a true and beautiful understanding. The mind accumulates confusion, habit, distortion. Practice is the constant work of cleaning what obscures the mirror. As long as we are alive in the world, dust continues to settle, and the work continues. The monks copied the verse into their practice books. Shengshu waited for the transmission. Huineng heard the verse read aloud in the kitchen. He could not read it himself. He stood with his rice pestle and listened, and something in him responded to the verse the way a tuning fork responds to the note it was made for. Not in full agreement, but in recognition of what the verse was pointing at and what it had not quite reached. He asked one of the monks to take him to the corridor wall. He asked the monk to write his response beside Shengshu's verse. The monk wrote what Huineng dictated. Originally, there is not a single thing. Where would dust alight? When Hongren read the verse, he walked past it without expression. He rubbed it out with his sandal. He said aloud that it showed no understanding. That night, he went to the kitchen. He tapped 3 times on the rice mortar with his staff. Huineng understood the signal. He came in the middle of the night, when the monastery was deep in sleep, to Hongren's room. The 5th patriarch transmitted the teaching to him directly and gave him the robe and bowl, the sign of succession. Then he told Huineng to leave the monastery immediately and go south, for his own safety. There were those who would not accept the kitchen worker as successor and might try to take what had been given. Huineng left before dawn, carrying the robe and bowl south through the mountains before the monastery woke. What did Hongren see in those 2 verses? Shengshu understood the path. His verse describes what sincere practice actually looks like, and it has guided practitioners for over 1,000 years. Most people arrive at Shengshu's understanding first, and it is the right place to arrive. The mirror must be polished. Dust does settle. The effort is real. Huineng saw something beneath the path. His verse does not argue with Sheng Xiu's. It goes under it. If the original nature of the mind is pure awareness, not a surface, not something that accumulates, not a thing at all, then the mirror is a concept we have placed over something that cannot be touched by dust. The goal of practice is not to build a cleaner mirror. It is to recognize that the mirror was never what we are. The kitchen worker pounding rice already had it. The years of study had not given Sheng Xiu something Huineng lacked, because what was being sought could not be accumulated. It could only be recognized. And it was already present in the person who had nothing to unlearn. Most of us spend our lives adding knowledge, adding practice, adding credentials, adding the right vocabulary and the right references and the right teachers. Huineng had added none of it. He pounded rice. And in the space the adding had not filled, the recognition arrived. You reach a teaching and think, there must be something more to learn, something not yet understood, not yet sat with long enough. And the sitting is real. The practice is real. What the sitting is pointing toward, though, does not have to be built up piece by piece. It is already here, present, unaccumulated, waiting to be recognized. Where would dust alight? If you already are the awareness that was looking for itself, where is the dust? What is there to accumulate? What has to be polished before you can see what you have always been? The robe and bowl were in the kitchen worker's hands before anyone in the monastery understood what had happened. Wisdom had arrived in the person no one was watching. It came quietly, and it left before dawn, and it has been teaching from that kitchen ever since. Wisdom has no address, no degree, no pedigree. The stories that follow enter different ground, and the first of them begins with darkness demanding entry. The demon came home to find someone sitting in his house. He ordered the man out. The man left as a courtesy. The demon ordered him back in. The man came back. The demon ordered him out again. The man left. He had gone out of patience. He would not go a third time. The third time the demand came, the man refused. Ayavaka was a yaka, a fierce forest spirit who had claimed his territory with the kind of absolute authority that belongs to things that have never been told no. His power over the forest was understood by everyone in the region. The man sitting in his dwelling was the Buddha, who had entered while Agavaka was away. When the demon returned and found him there, the commands started. In and out, twice over, the Buddha moved as an act of patience. The third demand was met with stillness. This is where Ajavaka reached for his weapons. He threw his spear. He called up wind and rain. He summoned the storm he was known for, the darkness that came from him like weather, and aimed it all at the man sitting in his house. The accounts say his power was sufficient to split a mountain. He sent all of it. Weapons, storms, fire, the full force of everything he had. Fear would have been a completely understandable response. The Buddha sat. The spear fell short. The storms broke around him. The darkness did not settle. Avaka threw more, harder, with more of whatever it was that made him Ahavaka. The man in his house absorbed none of it and gave none back. He stayed where he was. The sutta calls what happened next the exhaustion of power. Avaka did not run out of weapons. He ran out of the force behind them. Rage needs somewhere to land. It needs the thing it is aimed at to respond, to flinch, to flee, to push back. Without any of that, it burns through itself. The storm had nowhere to go except back into the one generating it. Avaka stood in the settling quiet of his own storm, spent. And then something shifted. He asked a question, not a threat. A real question. 4 of them, standing there in the aftermath of everything he had just done. What is the best kind of wealth a person can have? What brings real happiness? What is the finest thing a person can taste? And how does a person live well in this world? These are not a demon's questions. They are the questions underneath almost every human struggle. What can you hold that won't be taken away? What will actually make things better? What is worth trusting? How should you live? Avaka had to exhaust every weapon he owned before he could ask them quietly. Most of us do too. The Buddha answered each one. Faith is the best wealth, because it holds when everything external falls away. Dhamma, practiced sincerely, brings real happiness, because it aligns how we live with what is actually true. Truth is the finest taste, because it does not leave bitterness after. And a person lives best by giving, and by practicing what leads toward peace, and by letting that practice go deep enough to be genuine. Avaka listened. He became a follower of the teaching. The demon stopped not because the Buddha overpowered him. The Buddha brought no weapons, called no storms, matched nothing Avaka sent. He simply did not leave. What Ahavaka discovered is what rage always discovers when it cannot get a response, that sustaining it takes more energy than the target does. The storm was never really about the Buddha. It was burning through Achavaka. When it finished, what remained was a being with real questions. The same questions any of us carry when the noise finally clears. There are kinds of difficulty that arrive this way. They come in loud, demanding, filling all the space in the room. When that happens, the instinct is either to run or to meet it with equal noise. The Buddha did neither. He stayed present without agreeing to any of it, without flinching and without fighting. Staying is not the same as giving in. The Buddha did not concede anything to Adavaka. He held the ground quietly and waited for the storm to do what storms do. Storms pass. They have been passing since before there were people to watch them. What the storm is aimed at just has to stay present long enough for that to happen. Most forms of darkness, if you stay with them without running and without fighting back, eventually exhaust themselves and show what was underneath all along. That is not easy. It may be the hardest thing in the practice, to stay when everything in you wants to run or fight, to stay without pretending the storm isn't there, to stay present and clear and not consumed by it. The Buddha's stillness did not silence Adavaka's rage. It held the space until the rage finished, and then it answered what was waiting beneath. After the storm, a different quiet. The darkness that follows has a beautiful face, arrives with a promise, and calls itself exactly what you have been looking for. He became a monk in the middle of his wedding ceremony. The Buddha had arrived that morning with his alms bowl. Nanda, the Buddha's half-brother, received him at the door while his wedding guests waited, and his fiancée Janapada Kalyani stood in the courtyard, her hair half-dressed, still holding flowers. The Buddha placed his alms bowl in Nanda's hands and walked away. Nanda followed, carrying the bowl, unable to refuse his brother and unable to simply hand it back. He heard Janapada Kalyani call his name from behind him. He did not turn around. She called again. He kept walking. The guests drifted away. The flowers stayed in the courtyard. By the time the day was over, he had been ordained. He had not chosen it. Janapada Kalyani was said to be the most beautiful woman in the region. Her name meant that, literally, the beauty of the land. In the first weeks of his practice, Nanda could see her face whenever he closed his eyes. He missed her with the specific weight of something that had been in his hands and was suddenly gone. He rehearsed conversations in which he left the monastery. He planned the words he would say. He never used them. Every day he considered leaving. Every day something held him back, and that something was not wisdom or understanding or a genuine feeling for the path. It was that he could not bring himself to walk away from his brother. The Buddha knew what was happening. He took Nanda, using his supranatural ability, to where they saw divine women, apsarases, attendants in the heavenly realms, said to be as far beyond Janapada Kalyani's beauty as the sun is beyond a blackened wick. The comparison was the Buddha's own, and it was designed to work on exactly the kind of mind Nanda had. He asked Nanda which he preferred, the fiancé waiting at home or the beings before him now. Nanda said, without hesitation, the heavenly women. The Buddha told him, practice sincerely, and those could be yours. Nanda practiced with a ferocity he had never managed before. He sat long hours. He was diligent and relentless, the most assiduous practitioner in the community. The other monks noticed. They also noticed why. Word moved through the community. Nanda, the monk who practiced for beautiful women. They called him a hired hand, working for wages, trading his practice for a promise of reward. The sitting hours were long. The reason was not admirable. The shame reached him. Real shame moves differently from embarrassment. Embarrassment wants to hide. Shame, if you sit with it honestly, asks a question. The question it asked Nanda was not comfortable. It asked him whether he had ever actually looked at what he was reaching for. The monks were right. He was a hired hand. He had been sitting all those hours for payment. And then the actual question arrived. What if he followed his desire all the way to its end, not toward the heavenly women, but past them? What would he actually find there, at the far end of the wanting? He looked. He stopped moving toward something and looked at the moving itself. He saw the reaching. He saw what was underneath the reaching when it finally stopped. What he found was not the thing he had been reaching for. It was the quality of mind the reaching had always been covering. The peace he had imagined he would feel when he finally got what he wanted was already present, already available. The ground, the wanting, had been standing on the whole time. Nanda became free. He returned to the Buddha and said the debt was cleared. The Buddha said there was no longer any debt. Nanda said there had never been one. He had not attained liberation because of a promise. He had attained it because, for the first time, he had followed his desire all the way to where it ended and found what was actually there. This is what makes Nanda's story strange and worth carrying. The motivation was wrong. The method was correct. He brought his desire fully into the practice, and the practice, which has its own logic, transformed it from the inside. He is one of very few in the canon who began from pure wanting and found his way through because of it, not in spite of it. Most of us reach. We reach for specific people, specific states, specific versions of our lives that we are convinced will finally feel like enough. Underneath every object of desire is the same thing Nanda was reaching for, even when he thought he was reaching for divine women. He was reaching for the feeling he imagined he would have when he finally got what he wanted. Nanda confused the destination with the feeling he expected on arrival. That confusion is the engine of most of our reaching. The teaching calls that feeling peace. And it is not waiting at the end of the reaching. It is the ground the reaching has been standing on, available in this moment before the next reach begins. Nanda found what was at the end of his desire. The story after this one begins further down. A king who wanted a throne badly enough to kill for it, and had to carry what that cost. He had his father killed for the throne. The throne gave him nowhere to rest. He had been persuaded by Devadatta, a monk who had turned against the Buddha, that a king's son should not wait for inheritance. Ajatasattu imprisoned his father Bimbisara, who had been the Buddha's most devoted lay supporter, and left him there until he died. Then he took the throne he had murdered for. And the guilt came, not as a thought, as a physical weight he carried into sleep and woke with and could not put down. One night, his physician Jivaka suggested he go to the Buddha. Ajatasattu agreed, though the agreement was complicated. He travelled with his full retinue, torch-bearers and soldiers, because a king does not move at night without protection, and because somewhere in him he was afraid of what the darkness might hold. The darkness of a man who knows he is guilty is different from ordinary darkness. It carries its own weight. Every shadow suggests a consequence arriving. They rode toward Jivaka's mango grove, where the Sangha was staying. As they got closer, something made itself felt. Or rather, something was absent. Silence. A community of hundreds of monks and not a sound. No voices. No movement. Nothing. Ajatasattu pulled back and turned to Jivaka. He asked if this was a trap. He knew what it meant to use trust as a weapon. He had used it himself. Jivaka told him to go forward. He entered the grove. Hundreds of monks sitting under the full moon in complete stillness. The moon was full and high, the robes pale in the moonlight, and not one person moved. No fidgeting. No coughing. No sound at all. The kind of silence that is not empty but full, the surface of a pond at first light, before anything breaks it. Ajatasattu had not seen anything like this. He had spent months unable to sleep, his mind circling what he had done, and here were hundreds of people in a stillness he had assumed was no longer available to anyone. He had forgotten it was possible. Peace as something you could see and almost touch, present in the posture and the silence, embodied in people who had found a way to stop churning. He stood there for a moment. He said, quietly, to no one in particular, "May my son Udayibhadda have this kind of peace." He did not say the same for himself. He approached the Buddha and sat. After a moment, he asked the question the Samanyaphala Sutta is built around. What are the visible fruits of the spiritual life? What does a person actually receive in this life? Now, from following the path? The Buddha answered him fully. He spoke of the peace that comes from genuine practice, the clarity, the freedom from agitation, the way the mind moves differently when it is no longer driven by hunger and aversion and confusion. He described what a practitioner actually experiences, from the earliest fruits of renunciation through to the deepest freedom a human mind can reach. He did not ask what Ajatasattu had done. He did not reference it. He did not offer forgiveness or withhold it. He answered the question that was asked. Ajatasattu listened to all of it. When the Buddha finished, the king confessed. He named what he had done, said he had been overcome by greed, that he had caused his father's death, that he had taken the throne through the worst possible means. He asked the Buddha to receive the acknowledgement of his wrongdoing. The Buddha received it. The text is honest about what followed. Ajatasattu could not attain liberation that night. The weight of what he had done was still fully in him, and genuine transformation takes more than one conversation. The commentary says, plainly, that had he not killed his father, he would have attained the first stage of the path in that sitting. He left with something different from what he came with, though it would take time to name what it was. What he left with was this: he had been seen. Not his crime. Him. The man carrying the crime. The Buddha had looked at Ajatasattu, a parasite, the person who had done what the culture called unforgivable, and had spoken to him as someone still capable of hearing the teaching. He had not made the crime the most important thing in the room. There are people who carry something they have done and have quietly decided it permanently closes a door. The person they could have been, the peace they might have had access to, the goodness still available to them, all of it sealed off by the weight of that one thing. Ajatasattu came to the grove that night, carrying exactly that certainty. And what he found was that the door was still there. Narrower now, harder, requiring more from him than it would have before. Still there. Still a door. Ajatasattu had to carry the weight all the way to the threshold and set it down there, acknowledged, named, not denied. That is what the confession was for. The full moon was overhead when he arrived. The Sangha was still sitting in silence when he left. The stillness had not been interrupted by any of it, by the crime or the guilt or the confession. It was simply still, the way peace is still, when it is real. What Ajatasattu found that night is the thing most people assume they have forfeited. The door. From here, the stories turn to a different kind of weight. A man who holds everything too tightly to put any of it down. a single gold coin fell from his cart into the street. He stood there watching poor people gather around it, push and argue and fight over it, and could not move. He could not go pick it up himself. Too many eyes watching. He could not send a servant. They would know what the coin meant to him. He stood at a distance, watching his gold in the hands of strangers, and the watching was unbearable. He could not eat that night. He could not sleep. He lay awake, turning the loss of one coin over and over until morning. Elisa was the wealthiest man in Varanasi. His treasury was vast. His storehouses full. He refused to give a single thing to anyone, not to the poor who came to his gate, not to his family, not even to himself. He ate the cheapest food available so as not to draw down his stores. He wore old cloth. He went without things that any middling merchant could have afforded 100 times over. All of it preserved, locked, held. He was not enjoying his wealth. He was guarding it. Every morning he walked through his storehouses. Every evening he checked the locks. He moved through the dark touching doors, counting what he could not see, reassuring himself it was still there. It was always still there. The reassurance never lasted until morning. The Bodhisattva, the being who would become the Buddha in a future life, came to Varanasi in that time and heard about Elisa. He came to speak with him. He did not tell Elisa he was wrong to hold what he had. He asked him something simpler. He asked him what pleasure the wealth had given him. Elisa had no answer. He could not name a single pleasure the gold had provided. Not one thing he had enjoyed because of it. Not one morning he had woken feeling rich in any way that mattered. The Bodhisattva let the silence run. He did not fill it. What the wealth gave Elisa was the terror of its absence. He thought about losing it constantly. He thought about it in the night and at meals, and when he saw a beggar, and when he counted his stores, and when a coin fell in the street. The gold occupied his mind the way a fire occupies a house. There was no room for anything else. The Bodhisattva pointed toward where the poor people had been. He asked, "Which of you is suffering more?" Elisa looked. The beggars had bought food with the coin. They had eaten. They were not lying awake over a single piece of gold. Their suffering was real and serious and hard. And it was not the suffering Elisa had. Elisa's suffering was generated entirely from the inside, from the holding, from the terror of release. He had never once felt the relief of letting something go. He had mistaken the vigilance for safety. Hoarding is not what it looks like from the outside. From the outside, it looks like love of wealth. From the inside, it is terror. The person who cannot give, cannot let anything leave their hands, because somewhere in them they believe that what they are is exactly equal to what they possess, and that any diminishment of what they possess is a diminishment of what they are. That is the lie at the center of it. What you have cannot make you more than you are. What you release cannot make you less. What Elisa eventually gave, when the Bodhisattva's words had worked their way through, did not diminish him. The treasury did not empty. The gold remained. What changed was the weight he had been carrying, the vigilance, the tightness he had lived inside for so long he had stopped noticing it was there. When he opened his hands, something left that had been far more costly than any coin. There is a version of this that most people carry from the inside. It is not always about money. It is about anything held so tightly that the holding becomes the whole of life. A relationship, a version of ourselves, a way things used to be, a fear of how things could go. The grip produces exactly the condition it was meant to prevent. It narrows everything down to the thing being held, until there is no room left for anything else to enter. Elisa could not open his hands. The story after this belongs to someone who opened everything, gave from the body itself, and found in the giving something more lasting than what was given. The only bridge was his own body. He had understood this before any of his troop did. The Bodhisattva was a monkey king, leading a vast troop in a great mango grove beside a river. The mangoes were the largest and sweetest anywhere. For generations the troop had lived there, had eaten there, had known the grove as home. When a single fruit fell into the current and floated downstream, it was found by a human king who followed the river back to its source. He found the grove. He marveled at it. He sent his archers to clear it. The troop fled toward the river. The far bank was too far to jump. The water was fast and wide. The archers were trained and had orders, and none of the troop's history with this grove mattered to any of them. The Monkey King ran to the edge and measured the distance. He found a bamboo vine long enough to span the gap. He tied one end to a tree on the near bank, gripped the other end, and leapt with everything he had. He misjudged the distance by a small margin. He could not reach the far bank. He grabbed a branch on the far side with his hands, held the vine with his feet, and held himself there above the water, his body stretched into a bridge. He called to his troop, "Run." They ran. One after another, hundreds of monkeys crossed over his body, their weight on his back, their feet on his ribs and spine. He could feel each one. Small hands gripping behind his knees for balance. Heavier ones landing square on his lower back. He breathed through it. He held. Each one that crossed added to the strain on his hands and feet and the full length of his body. he held. Then came the rival. A monkey who had resented the king for a long time. He reached the Monkey King's back and paused there, looked down at him, and then leapt with both feet at full weight onto the center of his back, as hard as he could manage. The Monkey King's back broke. He did not let go. He remained in the agony of a broken back, holding the bridge open until the last monkey had crossed. Only then did he release. The human king had watched all of this from the riverbank below. He had come expecting animals to scatter. He had watched something he had no name for. He ordered his soldiers to wade across and carry the Monkey King down gently, still breathing, his body broken in the shape of a bridge. They laid him on soft ground. The human king sat beside him. He was weeping. He had seen many things in his life. He had not seen this. He asked, "Why?" The Monkey King, barely conscious, answered, "You can be a king who has a kingdom," he said, "or a king who has a people. They are not the same thing. A king who has a people gives the kingdom for the people. That is what this is." He died shortly after. The human king protected that forest and the remaining monkeys for the rest of his reign. Witness alone transformed him. No argument reached him. No teaching. What he saw did, and he could not unsee it. There is a distinction worth holding here. Most giving is conditional in ways we barely notice. We give when it is comfortable, when we are acknowledged, when the cost stays manageable, when the person we give to has earned it by our accounting. This is real and the world needs it. The Monkey King's giving was something else. It did not stop when the cost became unbearable. It did not stop when the one who stepped on his back had done so with intention. The condition for stopping never arrived, because he had not attached one. The tradition does not say this is required of ordinary people. These bodhisattva stories are not prescriptions. They are accounts of a quality of heart that is possible, that has existed in the world, that the tradition asks us to encounter not in order to make us feel inadequate about our limits, but to know that such a quality exists. To have met it, even in a story, is to carry something of it. You may have given something in your life that cost more than you planned. Something that asked for more than you thought you had. The Monkey King's story doesn't say that was ordinary or that it should have been easy. It says that the human capacity for that kind of giving is real, that it shows up in the world, that it has been witnessed and remembered. What the Monkey King experienced as his back broke was not loss. What he experienced was completion. A life used fully, in the moment it was most needed, for the ones it was given for. The gift included the pain. The pain was part of what made it complete. Most lives end with something left over, some giving that never happened, some capacity that never got used. His life ended with nothing remaining. When the practice speaks of generosity, it usually begins with what is easy to give, what costs little, what can be offered from surplus. The Bodhisattva stories exist partly to show where that continuum ends, what generosity looks like at the far edge of what a life can hold. The Monkey King found that edge. He met it with his body. The Monkey King became a bridge so others could cross. What comes next is a different kind of giving. Two people who gave each other the most unusual gift, the permission to become what they were most meant to be, and then walked away in opposite directions. They had placed a garland of flowers between them on the bed. Neither of them touched it. Buddha Kapilani and Maha Kassapa had been brought together by their families the way many people are brought together, by arrangement, by circumstance, by the reasonable logic of two families who thought their children suited each other. Maha Kassapa would go on to become one of the closest disciples of the Buddha, the monk who convened the first great council after the Buddha's death, the one described in the texts as having a mind like still water. Buddha would be recorded in the Therigatha, the ancient collection of verses by liberated women, as foremost among those with knowledge of past lives. On the night of their wedding, none of that had happened yet. They were two people sitting in a room together for the first time, with a garland of flowers between them. Each of them had placed it there as a boundary. As a signal they hoped the other would understand without being told. Maha Kassapa had long felt the pull of renunciation. There was no way to say that to his family on the night they had arranged his wedding. He sat in the candlelight and waited for something he could not name. Buddha had felt the same pull for years. She had also stayed quiet. She sat across from him and waited for the same thing. Neither of them slept. The hours moved the way hours move when you are waiting for morning to give you permission to say something you have been carrying a long time. There was nothing hostile in the room. There was also nothing easy. Two people each hoping the other would be the first to reach for what they both needed to say. When morning came, one of them finally spoke. The accounts differ slightly on who said it first. What they agree on is this: in the morning light, each told the other the truth. To renounce. Both. The garland of flowers, placed there with such care, untouched through the whole night, lay between them. They left together. They walked to the edge of the estate and shaved each other's heads with the care of people who understand they are doing something that cannot be undone and want it done properly. Then they walked different roads. He went one way. She went another. The tradition says they walked separately because it would not have been right to walk together. The sight of them might have stirred longing in others, or in themselves. They went separately toward the same thing. Buddha's road was not easy or short. She studied first under a different teacher, then came to the Buddha's teaching after years of rigorous practice alone in difficult conditions, the kind of commitment that does not waver because it was never made for anyone else. Both eventually reached liberation. Both knew, when it arrived, that the other had reached it too. What happens in this story is easy to misread as loss. Two people discover they love each other and immediately walk away. That reading misses everything. What Buddha and Kassapa gave each other that morning was not a parting. It was a release. A particular and very rare kind of love. The kind that looks at another person and wants for them exactly what they most deeply want for themselves, even when what they want takes them away from you. The garland was not a wall. It was an offer. It said, "You don't have to be what this arrangement requires of you. If there is something truer in you, go toward it." Most love, even genuine love, carries a quiet assumption that the other person's flourishing should happen near you. Buddha and Kassapa loosened that assumption completely. Each of them said, "Your freedom matters more to me than my closeness to it." This is not indifference dressed up as generosity. It is what happens when love has gone deep enough to hold another person's whole life, not just the part of it that touches yours. There is a smaller version of this that shows up in daily life. The parent who lets a child choose a life they don't understand. The friend who encourages someone towards something that will take them far away. The partner who says, "You should do this, even though it changes things between us." These are not easy gestures. They push against something deep in how we love. We want the people we care about near us. We want to be part of their becoming. But sometimes what a person most needs is permission. Not support, not accompaniment. Permission. The wholehearted. Go. We will go too. We will meet where we are most ourselves. The garland stayed untouched. Everything else was released. Buddha and Kassapa freed each other through a single honest morning. What follows is a different shape of freedom, the kind that moves towards someone who has caused harm, carrying nothing that looks like an obvious reason to go. Sunaparanta was a place people knew how to leave. There were roads in. Not many people took them. The monk Punna had trained under the Buddha for years and was considered one of the most accomplished teachers in the Sangha. He came to the Buddha one afternoon and said he wanted to go to Sunaparanta, a rough frontier region in the west, whose people were known throughout the land for their violence. He wanted to teach there. The Buddha listened. Then he asked a question. "The people of Sunaparanta are rough and fierce," he said. "If they curse you and revile you, what will you think?" Punna answered without hesitation. At least, he said, they didn't hit me with their hands. And if they hit you with their hands, at least they didn't throw clods of earth at me. And if they throw clods, at least they didn't attack me with a stick. And if they attack you with a stick, at least they didn't attack me with a weapon. And if they attack you with a weapon, at least they didn't kill me. And if they kill you? Punna was quiet for a moment. Then he answered, "There are those among my teacher's disciples," he said, "who have sought out a knife to end their own lives. The people of Sunaparanta would free me from that need without any trouble at all. They would be doing me a kindness." The Buddha sat with this. Then he said, "Well done, Punna. With such endurance and such non-violence, you are fit to dwell in Sunaparanta. You may go." Punna went. He spent the rain's retreat there. The sutta says he established 500 male lay disciples and 500 female lay disciples in the practice, all in one season. What had he done that made this possible? He had followed every fear to its end and found the end habitable. Each of the Buddha's questions was an invitation to look at the worst case and answer honestly. Is this survivable? Yes. And this? Yes. The final question is the only one that matters. And if it kills you? Punna had looked at that and found what was left when the fear of death was cleared away. Not nothing. A clarity that had no edges to it. There is a particular kind of dread that has nothing to do with what has already happened. It lives entirely in what might. The conversation you have been postponing. The person you haven't contacted because you do not know how they will receive you. The situation you keep circling from a distance because you are afraid of what entering it will cost. Punna had done something specific with that fear. He had followed it all the way to the end of every possible outcome, including the worst one, and seen that the end of the worst outcome was also a place a person could be. The teaching in Sunaparanta was not given through words alone. It was given through the fact of Punna's arrival. He had come. He had come, knowing what the people there were capable of, and had come anyway, openly, without weapons, without the kind of fear that communicates itself through posture and tone and makes difficult people more difficult. When someone arrives at you without armor, something in you that was prepared to be hostile has nothing to meet. The hostility is still possible, but it costs more. It has to be built from scratch. 500 people change direction in a single season. Most of the time, this is not about physical violence. There is a smaller Sunaparanta in most people's lives, a situation or a person or a conversation they have been approaching only so far and no further. The mind treats it the way the frontier treated visitors, as a threat that justifies keeping distance. Most avoidance is of the approach, the imagined threshold, the edge of a place not yet entered. What is actually inside is almost never what the approach suggested. The Buddha's question sequence is a practice anyone can do. You take the situation you are avoiding and ask, what is the worst thing that could happen if you go there? And if that happens, then what? You follow it down. This is not a technique for generating courage. It is a way of finding what is actually at the end, of seeing whether the ground holds. Usually it does. Usually, what you find at the end of the following is not the catastrophe you expected, but a version of yourself sitting quietly in it, still present, still intact. Punna's freedom was not the absence of danger. The danger in Sunaparanta was real. His freedom was the absence of resistance to it. He had already arrived at the worst case in his mind, had sat with it, had found it habitable, and so when he walked into the region itself, he was walking somewhere he had already been. The people there could see it. Something about him was already at rest in the place they had made dangerous. Freedom from aversion is the discovery that you can be in the difficult place and still be yourself. That the thing you were avoiding did not contain your undoing after all. That you were already large enough to hold what you were afraid of encountering. Punna walked into Sunaparanta with nothing to protect. The story that follows asks something quieter. What happens when the one considered greatest is the one most willing to appear as the most ordinary person in the room? The last time these streets had seen him, he was a prince. He walked through Kapilavathu in the morning light with his bowl, going door to door, the way monks do. The sun was not yet high. The street smelled of cooking fires and early dust. He walked slowly, deliberately, pausing at each door, waiting quietly for what was offered or not offered, then moving on. This was the Buddha. He had left this city as a young man and returned, after years of practice and teaching, as the one his tradition now calls the awakened one. He was begging for food in the streets where he had grown up as a prince. His father, King Suddhodana, saw him from a distance. He came quickly. He was close to anger, which is how grief sometimes arrives. No one of the Shakya clan has ever begged, the king said. You are a prince. This is a disgrace to our family. Come to the palace. Let me feed you. Do not go door to door in the streets where you grew up. The Buddha listened. Then he said, this is not the Shakya lineage that concerns him. The lineage of all the Buddhas goes for alms. This is what awakened ones do. He continued down the street. Suddhodana stood watching his son go from door to door in the city where that son had once ridden on a decorated elephant. The streets had not changed. The man walking them had. Something about watching began to move in the king. The ease with which the begging was being done, the complete absence of shame, apology, or any need to explain. He followed his son. The Vinaya says that after this meeting, Suddhodana eventually opened to the teaching and attained the first stage of the path. It happened because he watched. Because something in what he watched could not be argued with. What did Suddhodana see? He saw someone completely free from what the king himself was enslaved by. Suddhodana was a king, and kings carry their position like a second body. Every action has to be seen correctly, judged correctly, reported correctly. The standing of the family, the honor of the lineage, the eyes of the city, all of this required management without end. He had spent his life maintaining it. And here was his son, who had given up more status than most people ever accumulate, walking through the same streets with a bowl, knocking on doors, and something about him was radiant. The bowl did not diminish him. The begging did not reduce him. He was larger in this than he would have been in any palace. There is a particular suffering that comes from needing to be seen correctly by people who knew us before. It is different from the ordinary need for recognition. Those people hold a version of who we were, and they compare it constantly to who we are now, and we can feel them doing it. Going home, to a family, to a place, to the people who shaped us, activates something that even otherwise grounded people can lose footing in. The old self reassembles without invitation. Old roles return. The need to be received correctly, to be understood on one's own terms, to have the change in us acknowledged. All of it rises the moment we step back through a familiar door. The Buddha walked through that and did not reassemble. He was the same person in the streets of Kapilavatthu that he was under the Bodhi tree, the same person who had spoken to kings and farmers and scholars. His father's grief, his father's demand that he be something other than what he was, arrived and found nowhere to land. He received it with kindness, answered it with truth, and kept walking. This is what dignity without status looks like. It does not need the old story to be honored. It does not require the city to remember the prince in order for the monk to walk freely through it. The bowl in his hand was not a symbol of what he had lost. It was a sign of what had become completely unnecessary. Most people go home carrying something they do not carry anywhere else. A hope that this time they will be seen as they actually are. A fear that this time they won't. Both of these belong to the same need, and the need is the suffering. The Buddha walked into his childhood home having released the need entirely. He did not need Suddhodana to understand. He did not need the city to confirm anything. His father's voice did not find a wound to enter. Suddhodana watched this, and something in him shifted. Not because the Buddha had argued well or persuaded him, but because the argument had nowhere to enter either. Dignity that requires nothing is the most persuasive thing in the world. The Buddha walked through his childhood home without needing it to be other than it was. The story that follows belongs to someone who did. In Rajagaha, parents counted their children at dusk. They had learned to. A child who was there in the morning was sometimes gone by evening, and no one could explain how, and no one could stop it. The city lived with the specific grief of not knowing when the loss would come, only that it would. Hariti was a yakshini, a spirit of enormous power who had made a vow in a former life to feed her children by taking the children of humans. She had 500 children of her own. She was a mother. She loved them with the full force of what she was, with a fierceness that had no limit and asked no questions. The love was real. It was also the source of everything the city feared. The Buddha took her youngest, her most beloved child. He concealed the child beneath his begging bowl. Hariti came home and the child was not there. She searched her dwelling. She searched every corner, every hiding place, every tree and stone the child had ever touched. She searched for days. She crossed to the heavens and pressed every deity she knew. She descended into the earth realms and came back with nothing. She combed the surface of the world with everything her power could reach. The grief of those days, the accounts are clear about this, was the grief of a mother who has lost the one she loves most and cannot find them anywhere. Her power was enormous. She found nothing. She came to the Buddha. She did not arrive ready to listen. She arrived in anguish, raw and sleepless, the way a parent arrives after days of searching with no answer. The Buddha listened to her without interrupting. Then he asked one question. "You have 500 children," he said. "You grieve this deeply for one. What do you think the parents of Rajagaha feel? The ones whose only child you have taken?" She stopped. There is a moment in some people's lives when something they have always known becomes, for the first time, actually true. Hariti had known she was taking children. She had known the way anyone knows a fact they have arranged their life around not feeling. In the moment the Buddha asked his question, the knowing changed character. It stopped being a fact and became a feeling. It became the specific weight of what she was carrying in her own chest at that moment, and she understood that she had been placing that exact weight on other people in this city, over and over, for years. What happened next was not forgiveness given from above. It was recognition moving in both directions. She felt what the others had felt. The grief she had been producing was now inside her, and she could not unfeel it. That was the whole of what the Buddha asked of her. Not belief, not obedience. Just this, to actually feel the weight she had been handing out. She wept. The Buddha returned her child. She held him. She did not need to be punished. She did not need to be threatened or destroyed or contained. She needed to feel, at the same depth she was capable of feeling, what she had been doing to others. The capacity for harm and the capacity for understanding were the same capacity in her. It was enormous. The Buddha turned it so it was aimed at the right thing. Hariti became one of the protectors of children in Buddhist tradition. In temples across northern India, China, and Japan, she is depicted holding an infant, surrounded by children, offering a pomegranate, the fruit the Buddha gave her as a substitute for what she had been consuming. The one who had emptied homes in Rajagaha became the one those same parents came to pray to. The same force. A different direction. The harm that comes from love is the hardest kind to see clearly, because it feels like the same thing as caring. The holding on that suffocates began as a desire to keep someone safe. The expectation that crushed began as a hope for something better. The jealousy that controlled began as a love that did not want to lose what it had found. The advice given again and again without being asked. The need to fix what was not broken. The hovering that leaves no room to breathe. All of these begin in genuine feeling. The force is real. What is narrow is not the caring, but the circle of who it includes. Hariti loved 500 children without difficulty. What she could not do was love the children of other mothers with the same instinct. The early Buddhist teachers called this the difference between pema and metta, between love for those who belong to you and love that extends past that boundary. Both are love. Only one of them stops causing harm. When the circle widened, the harm stopped. Nothing was removed from her. The same depth of feeling that had made her dangerous became the thing that made the parents of Rajagaha safe. The Buddha did not take her capacity away. He returned her child and let the love find its own wider shape. That is the whole of what happened. Whatever in you has caused damage, look at the root of it carefully. It is almost never empty. There is usually something real there, something that wanted to protect or hold or give. The question is not whether to keep the force. The question is whether the circle it serves is large enough. Hariti held her child and the harm was done. What follows resolves in the middle of a street. He had already been walking for days when the coast disappeared behind him. Bahia came from the far western edge of the subcontinent, from a port town called Saparika where the renunciants wore tree bark and the sea was visible from the hills. He had built a reputation there over years of practice, not as a teacher exactly, but as someone who had gone further than most people go. People came to observe him. They brought offerings. He let them. Then, one night, a deity appeared and told him the truth. The depth he had reached was real, but it was not the end. There was someone in the northeast who had gone further. Go find him. Bahia rose before dawn and started walking. He did not arrange provisions the way someone arranges provisions when the journey feels optional. He walked north and east with the focus of someone who has been told the one thing they most needed to hear and cannot unknow it. Savatthi was weeks of travel from Suparaka. When he arrived, he was told the Buddha was already out, moving through the streets on the morning alms round. Bahia did not wait. He found him among the houses, moving from door to door in the ordinary way monks move through cities in the morning. He went to his knees in the street. He asked to be taught. The Buddha declined. This is not the right time. The alms round is underway. Bahia stayed where he was and asked again. The same answer. He asked a third time and said, "Life is uncertain. No one knows how much of it remains. Please." The Buddha stopped. He stood in the street among the foot traffic and the sounds of the city, mourning, and he taught. In a monastery, the setting would have announced the importance of what was coming. Here there was no announcement. Just a man in a street, speaking to another man who was kneeling. In the scene, only the seen. In the herd, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. In the cognized, only the cognized. Therein, there is no you. And where there is no you, there is no here, no there, no between. That is the end of suffering. The teaching was 30 words. It took 30 seconds. Bahia was liberated immediately. He stood in the street while the monks continued past him, and the cows moved in the direction cows move in a morning, and the city went about what cities go about. The street was the same street. The morning was the same morning. The light came through exactly the way it comes through at that hour. Everything around him was unchanged, and he was no longer the same person who had knelt there moments before. Shortly after, Bahia was killed by a cow. When the monks brought the news, the Buddha told them that of all his disciples, Bahia had been the most swiftly liberated. He had crossed most of a continent to arrive at something that had been available in every moment of the crossing. The teaching Bahia received is one of the most concentrated in the entire Pali Canon. What it points to is very precise. When the eye opens and light enters and an image forms, there is a gap, a fraction of a moment before the mind adds its commentary about what the image means and what it reminds you of and what you should do about it. In that gap, the thing is only itself. The seen is only seen. The early teachers called this the door. Most people live without passing through it. Not because it is far away or guarded or reserved for people who have renounced enough. Because it is so close, it does not register as a door. Bahia walked across the better part of a continent. The teaching landed in 30 words. That it worked immediately is not the surprising part. The surprising part is that the Buddha gave him only what was needed, nothing more. No framework. No gradual method. One instruction, aimed with complete precision at the specific thing Bahia was ready to receive. Think of what brought you here, to this moment of listening. The thing you have been carrying. The suffering that sent you looking. The old teachers said the path is exactly as long as the understanding takes to arrive. For some, that is years of practice. For Bahia, it was a long walk, 3 requests, and 30 words. There is no fixed length. There is only the moment when the teaching and the readiness meet. The Buddha did not choose a special place or a special time to give Bahia what he came for. An ordinary street in an ordinary morning was enough. It has always been enough. The street you are standing in, the room you are sitting in, the ordinary night or morning you are moving through right now, has always been enough. What changes is not the world. It is the quality of what is brought to it. Bahia stood in a street in Savatthi and the path was complete. What follows is an arrival. Every kind of struggle was here. Grief that had no end, and grief that ended suddenly. The harm done by people who loved you and the harm done by strangers. The moment of losing what mattered most, and the moment of finding that what you thought you needed was not the thing at all. The long, slow grind and the single instant that changed everything. These are not edge cases. These are the places where being human happens. The Buddha did not teach people who had finished struggling. He taught people in the middle of it, on ordinary mornings, in ordinary streets, carrying the specific weight of a specific life. The people in these stories were not ready when the teaching found them. They were in the middle of something that had not resolved. The teaching arrived there anyway. You are in some kind of middle right now. Whatever it is human. It has been human for as long as there have been people who carry something difficult and wonder if they will find a way through. Everyone who has ever lived has stood somewhere like the place you are standing in right now. That is not a small thing to know. The struggle is not a sign that something has gone wrong with you. It is the texture of a life that is actually being lived. Let that be enough for now. The morning is still here. You are still here. That is the whole of what is needed.